Hi, hello, and welcome to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside two absolute legends, Jesse Marsch and Charlie Davies. Big shout out to Tony Miola for filling in for Chuck when he was on his adventure into Montana, having a great time. Chuck, great to see you first and foremost. I'll give you back.
Welcome back, Chuck.
Proper applause.
Welcome back.
I honestly missed you guys. So
yeah.
We don't believe you, but we appreciate you saying that nonetheless. Now we have a big show for you guys today. Doing a little recapping, doing a looking forward. We got MLS starting, and speaking of MLS, we're going to talk about their involvement or lack of involvement in the U.S. Open Cup. It's all speculation, but we'll get into it as well, and it's going to be a great show. But first things first, it's a Call It What You Want word of the day. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Let's do this. Okay, the word is, now we know, I should say this, that this game is called a lot of different things: soccer, football, fuchiball, calcio. But for today, where is this word, bongjai? Where is that from? What language? What country?
Can I give it a crack first?
Bongjai. Yes, go ahead, Chuck.
Thailand.
Okay, Jesse?
Thailand. Give it to me one more time.
Bongjai.
Fungi?
Bongjai.
Oh, I was going to say, that's a mushroom.
Bongjai.
And Thailand, huh? So your reaction to Thailand makes me feel like he's in the right area. He's in the right area.
you know I'm close. If I'm not there, I'm close.
I'm Myanmar. I'm going Myanmar. That's definitely
Myanmar.
Yeah.
Okay, both of you are incorrect. I'll give you a clue. This country's national team currently sits 105th in the FIFA Men's World Ranking.
Okay,
are we close with Southeast Asia? Is Southeast Asia?
Yeah, you're kind of in the right area.
Yeah,
the same. Hold on, one more clue then. The same national team has never qualified for a World Cup, but did qualify for the last two AFC Asian Cups, losing 1-0 to Japan in the quarterfinals in the 2019 edition of the competition and failing to register a point in the latest edition. Bongjai. What do you got?
I'm going to go Vietnam.
Yeah.
Jesse Marsch is the winner. You got there first, Chuck. I'm sorry. You got a little slow going to Montana. You're coming back.
That one feels good. That one feels
Vietnam. I knew it.
Vietnamese is
for Lee Win. That's for Lee Win.
That was for Lee Win.
Okay.
God.
Nice job, Jesse. Proud of you.
Yeah. Got it.
All right, let's get into the recapping. We had some midweek European action. And we're going to start with AC Milan, who took their 3-0 lead into France to take on Rennes. And they lost 3-2, but aggregate 5-3. They move on to the next round. The draw for the Europa League just got announced prior to us recording. And AC Milan will be taking on Slavia Prague. I think that's a really good draw for them, considering that there were some other names in there like Liverpool and Brighton and West Ham, though this version of West Ham doesn't look so good at the very moment. But Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musah both got the start. Jesse, I want to come to you first. Who do you think played better out of those two or had more impact on the game out of those two?
I thought they were both okay. I mean, it's such a weird fixture when you're up 3-0, right? You go there, you just have to keep things tight. To be fair, Stade Rennes, they pushed the game with a really good goal in the 11th, 12th minute. And then obviously it brings a lot of urgency to both sides. But in general, I thought Milan managed the game pretty well. One of the things I've been talking about Christian and why his numbers aren't so high is because he doesn't always get the simple passes across the goal that can help him be in advantageous situation to score easy goals. So, in the middle of the second half, Rafael has a chance down the left wing, and he does well to get a little bit of room away from his defender. And if he just slides the ball across the goal on his left foot, Christian is wide open. He's run the entire length of the field to put himself in a dangerous position for a tap-in, and Leao shoots it instead. And of course, Christian's frustrated. And I tell you, if I haven't watched every minute of every game of AC Milan this year, but from what I've seen, that has happened 5 to 8 times where Christian's in a perfect position to score an easy goal and his teammates don't share the ball with him. So, you could see his
layout too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes Leao, sometimes Giroud, some, different situations. But, listen, for the teams that I've coached, it's always been a big emphasis. Let's score easy goals. Let's make the extra pass. Let's be unselfish. And what's great about when you create that kind of culture is then the guys want to really share the ball in the last third. And if you've scored an easy goal, then you want to help another guy score an easy goal. And it really becomes infectious within the team. And it can work the opposite way, where if too many guys are always taking the last shot when there's another option or an easy option available, it can mean that it can breed selfishness. So, I was like yelling at the TV at that moment, like, give them the ball. But in general, I thought it was a game that had to kind of be a little bit more conservative. They had to defend a little bit more. They had to just try to protect the lead, and they did. They managed that. They managed that fine. So they got out of it physically. They got the score they needed, and now they're ready to move on.
If I'm Milan, just overall losing to Musah 4-2 the previous weekend, midweek, now losing to Rennes 3-2. Now I know they got through, but that's a worrying trend. They've given up 7 goals to teams that, yes, are good, but not of the caliber that I think that should be able to put 7 past them. I guess I'm going to say that. Now, Chuck, I kind of want to get into the thoughts, and I love this insight here, Jesse, about what breeds selfishness and also being helpful and supportive of your teammates. If you're Christian Pulisic, because I remember that play, and Jesse, like you, I screamed at the television. How do you get a Rafael Leao to pass you the ball in that situation? What are you saying to him to be like, dude, give me the rock? Because not only were we screaming at the television, Jesse, Christian threw up his arms afterwards because he was pissed that he made that. So what do you do in that moment, especially as our resident number 9? How do you ask for the ball there in a way that Rafael Leao would be receptive to that type of feedback?
Yeah, this is one of those moments where you have kind of two alphas, right? Because Christian has put himself in that category of being a big playmaker at Milan. Get me the ball, I'll create. Where Rafael is already the resident playmaker for Milan and someone who is a big part of the Portuguese national team and the future of the Portuguese national team. So this is where I'm taking my guy out for dinners. I'm trying to hang out, build that relationship off the pitch so that carries onto the pitch. I think that's really important, is trying to find some similarities, trying to hang out, have some more conversations, because the stronger that bond can grow and become, the better you'll see in terms of production on the pitch. So that's when I'm trying to find some moments to hang out and spend some time together.
Okay, I like that insight. I also want to, I don't know if I want to give him a shout out, but James Bench, who writes for us, CBS Sports, put out an article stating that Christian Pulisic is one of the most overrated players in Europe this season. And those are fighting words. He's got 8 goals and 7 assists in all competitions this season. And what I find interesting, and Jesse, you mentioned it, maybe not directly to James Bench in this article, but Milan are very left-sided dominant. They have Rafael Leao and Theo Hernandez, who arguably are 2 of the most dangerous guys on the left side in all of Europe. And when they get in those situations to score, maybe they're not passing the rock. And I think that does hurt his overall XG stats. This is all a stat-based article by James Bench. He's looking at all the underlying stats. But what I think Christian's brought to the team is, in theory, he's brought some balance. Now you have a dangerous one-on-one player on the right side, which should, in theory, give that extra space to Leao to do what he's going to do. Now, Leao isn't producing the numbers that he had at this point last season, but I like the balance and symmetry that Christian does provide. And we've already talked about, and you brought it up in Coach's Corner, where he is doing a little bit more on the defensive side as well and really tracking runners. And ultimately, I think that's just going to serve the U.S. men's national team well. But it's
how is he overrated?
I don't.
Where's
look at the article.
But where is he getting the plaudits to say, oh, he's amongst the best? I mean, he's done a really good job in his first season at Milan. I think he's overproduced. If anything, he's exceeded the expectations. So I don't get how you can write an article about being someone who's overhyped.
We need to get James on the show to defend himself.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Charlie, if you're going to look at some of the pure metrics, then it's possible. But like Jimmy just brought up, Christian's done a lot of the responsible work as an attacker in the team, right? And even, sometimes they ask him to be a little bit more out wide, and sometimes they ask him to defend a little bit deeper. And listen, Leao's an incredible talent, right? And an explosive player. And he has potential to be among the best left-sided players in the world. He has that kind of talent. It's just, how do you then continue to create the kind of mentality in the group? Like, I was around them for Champions League, and I would interview them sometimes afterwards. There's a good vibe in the team. They like each other. You can see that it's a real team, that the guys enjoy being there, that obviously it's such a historic club, but you can see there's a really good vibe in the team. It's just now making sure that when they go on the pitch, that these little extra plays around the box can add up to more. So, can Christians, I've said this, sometimes maybe he can insert himself into the game a little bit more and like go after it and find the ball and be dynamic. But I think Christian's acclimated really well, is having a really good season. He's staying healthy, which is a big key in general. And yeah, of course, if you're going to look at an article and just look at pure stats, you're right. 8 goals, 7 assists. It's still solid. I think he can contribute more because of his quality. And I think he will continue to contribute more, but certainly if he got a little bit of help in some of these situations where he puts them in a good spot, a good spot around the goal for easy goals, this would change the whole dynamic of what that article is.
What's awesome is that article came out, and then Christian didn't start against Musah on the weekend. He came on as a sub and had a goal and an assist. So that's really sticking it to James Bench right away. Suck it, James. Now, keeping it on Milan, I do want to talk about Yunus Musah, because I have some friends who are diehards of Milan, and they had some interesting comments about Yunus Musah. Now, Yunus Musah started, it looked like on paper that he was starting somewhat in the 10 spot. And Jesse, I'll come to you on this because I want to get your coaching, put your coaching hat on right away, and trying to understand Stefano Pioli, the manager of Milan, and what he wanted out of Musah in this one. But they're like, we can see the promise in Yunus. We just don't know what he's actually his best position. And I feel like we're running into that conundrum a little bit with the U.S. men's national team as well. And so he's solid, but can he shine in any one particular position? And it feels like Pioli's using him in so many different ways. It's going to be hard for him to establish that.
We talked about this before. He played like a left 8. He didn't play like a center 10. I know they listed it on certain apps that way. And then, he was forced to sometimes cover the ground for when Leao wasn't coming back. And so he had to shift out. Even the first goal, he shifts over to help deal a little bit in the center of the midfield. And then they make a pass to his left, and he does everything he can to get out there to try to block the shot. But it's a good finish from the Rennes player. I think that Musah's been an important player for them. Even when he doesn't start, when he comes off the bench, he delivers some pretty good performances. And I would like to see, like, what we do with our teams all the time is we do a plus minus, almost like in hockey. Like, when you're on the pitch, does your team score more or does the opponent score more when you're on the pitch? And what does that mean? Right. And I would tend to feel that watching the matches that Musah, for the most part, has made a positive impact when he's in the games. And again, a lot of it is because he's responsible. He's willing to work for the team. They ask their center midfielders a lot to do a lot of man marking, so he has to follow players around a lot. And you can see that even sometimes that's not his favorite thing to do. I don't think that's anybody's favorite thing to do. But for me, I think for a young guy and new to the club, I think he's established himself in the group. I think he's had good performances, and I take away a lot of positives from what he's been able to do.
Yeah, I'm the same. Charlie, where are you on Yunus? And I guess this question is twofold, because the asks of him for his club team probably different, or a little bit different than his asks as a national team player. Obviously, I've got my Yunus Musah pajamas on because I love Yunus Musah, but there is some element of truth to what is actually his best position, and how can we best utilize him moving forward, I guess, for both club and country.
Well, I think, Jesse, you might understand from a midfielder's perspective that Yunus Musah, if he wants to be an attacking midfielder, then he has to take it on himself, take the initiative to get more goals, to get more assists, to be higher up the pitch when he does have the ball, be more decisive. Because what we've seen from him is he's silky smooth in possession, similar to a Darlington Nagbe. He can dribble out of tough situations. He can burst out of the midfield with the ball at his feet. But then it's sometimes he gets to the final third and it's like, I don't know what to do. This feels a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to get the ball off my feet, instead of being someone who can create for himself. So I think it's going to fall on him if he wants to be that attacking midfielder, if he wants to be closer to goal, number 10, or an 8 because he's so good at being someone who can defend or
he's box to box for me.
So that's one of those moments that it's going to be on him if he wants to be closer to goal, if he wants to be more of an attacking midfielder. But I think his best quality is an 8.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just kind of curious, and I love what you're saying about him taking that initiative. Some players don't want that responsibility. They don't want to be the one that makes that final pass. Not to say that he doesn't have it in him. We saw him score a couple good goals with Valencia in the previous seasons where he does take that initiative, but it's that consistent action of I'm going to take this and I'm going to make something happen at the end of this. Something positive end result is going to come out of it. It's going to be a cross. It's going to be a shot. It's going to be the final pass. It's going to lead to a corner, a deep throw in, whatever it is. To do that consistently, I feel like his instincts are more to be a connector and keep the play moving and keep the flow going.
And that happens in training. It's literally just drilling yourself to make those runs, to take the shots, to combine, to get into the box. So it's really up to him because he it's one of those players that he has unlimited potential. He is an incredible player, gifted, but we know he can be so much more.
I mean, for me, Jimmy, the one thing about when you play in Italy, right? Certainly in Europe, the tactical responsibility and the nuances of how you play in every position is really important. But maybe nowhere is the culture more defined with what the tactics are than how the game is played in Italy, right? So, and it's good. It's good for our American players, I think, to be put in these situations where they have to develop the tactical awareness and know-how of exactly how to execute positional ideas and how it fits within a concept of a team. But for this is why even I know with Pulisic, like he's trying always to do what he knows his tactical responsibility is and honor the responsibility he has to the team. And it's the same with Musah when I see him play, is I feel like they're very aware that there's a tactical model, that the coach cares a lot about it, and that they have to execute that at a high level. And then within there, they have to play the game. But that getting on the pitch will often be defined by how well they execute the tactical plan.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love breaking down our players with you guys. It's fun to kind of get into the nuance and subtlety of who they are, what they bring to the table, and then what's being asked by their coaches, or asked of them from their coaches, and trying to figure out the best way to have success. All right, we're going to take our first break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we got more games to break down. We got a little Real Betis and Johnny Cardoso and PSV versus Borussia Dortmund. We're going to dive in a little bit more, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy alongside Jesse and Chuck, and we are continuing our dive into the past. Midweek games in Europe, and PSV hosted Borussia Dortmund in the first round, or the first leg, I should say, of the round of 16 of the Champions League. It was a 1-1 draw. PSV yet to lose at home this season. Pretty impressive performance, all things considered. We got a couple Americans that got to play. Serginho Dest and Malik Tillman both started, both with 90 minutes. Ricardo Pepi came on for the last 15. Just cool to see these guys, and Ricardo Pepi in particular, getting this just Champions League experience. Fantastic game. I thought the penalty that PSV earned, a little soft. You know, as a former center back, I'm probably super biased. I know I'm biased. But Malik Tillman, Chuck, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah.
He had some opportunities, and he actually drew the penalty that they got, but he had some great chances, and I really liked the spots that he found himself in. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the criticism is going to come in him not finishing those chances, but sometimes it's harder to teach or to coach or whatever it may be, getting players in good spots to make plays. And I thought he was excellent on that side of it, but unfortunately he lacked that finishing touch.
Yeah, he did. But I'm always more on was he in the right positions? Did he approach the game with the right mentality? And he absolutely did. So I was thrilled to see Malik Tillman kind of stand out in this game. Of course, he would have liked a better end product, but he drew the penalty. He was involved. He was a big part of the way that PSV played in the attacking third. So I have nothing but positive things to say. Of course, you want a better game in front of goal, but in terms of the Champions League and making an impact, he certainly did.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Anything you want to add there, Jesse, with Malik Tillman?
Yeah, I agree. I think he could have been. Listen, if he finishes one of those plays, then
Maybe man
he's
of the
the
match,
hero.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The header on the free kick, I think he's offside. So even though that was a clear chance that he missed, I think that would have been called back. The one in transition, the first one he got on the right, the ball just bounced up on him a little bit, and maybe he could have passed it earlier, or then once that pass kind of went by, taken a really good strike at it. But the really good chance he had, where the combination with De Jong, and he found himself behind the back line, and if he could have just found a way to tuck that in the corner, it would have been a great finish. So you're right, though. I thought he had a fantastic game. He was present in the match on both sides of the ball. And that's one of the things I think you get from him, is not just some of the attacking prowess and ability to have some cleverness in the last third, but he's a 10 that's running back into the box and helping defend in certain moments. So I thought he was really good. I thought Serginho Dest was also very active in the match. Defensively, he gets caught a little bit on the goal. And to be fair, Malik Tillman lost the ball on the opposite side for the goal, and then it wound up coming to a 1v1 situation against Milan on the opposite side, and he just got away from Dest a little bit. I thought the midfielder could have helped double down a little bit more with Serginho to help him out, but very active in the attacking part of the pitch. And one of the things that I'll look at is how PSV, when we do Coach's Corner, is how PSV rotate some of their wing play and how they create some clever little advantages, and how Pepe and Dest and Tillman are involved in these little movements. So listen, in general, I think PSV has nothing to lose. I think they're playing with a lot of courage. I think they're very confident. I thought they looked good on the day. The match started wide open both directions. And that's, Dortmund likes to play like this, right? They have the quality and the ability to play in transition. They like to get up and down the pitch. I thought first half was really entertaining and good, really good football on both sides. I thought PSV was better in the match than I thought they would be. And Pepe came on and I thought had a real positive impact. So yeah, I thought a good match, good from our American players, and exciting to look forward to leg 2.
Yeah, lots of work to do for PSV in leg 2, though. Not easy to go into Dortmund and get a result. Now, Chuck, going to put you on the spot here, put you in the hot seat. If the Copa America started tomorrow, now obviously everybody's clamoring for Gio Reyna to
where are you going with
start.
this one?
I'm just kind of curious, given that Tillman's getting a lot of reps, playing at a high level in a Champions League game against a good opponent, would you put Tillman, would you find room for Tillman in the starting 11, say over a Gio Reyna or anybody else? If Copa America started tomorrow.
If Copa America started tomorrow, you have to consider you have to consider Tillman playing as a 10. You have to. He's playing consistently. He's playing 90 minutes in Champions League. So to say he's not playing at the highest level in the Dutch Eredivisie, that throw that out the window, because PSV are playing at a supremely high level and they're competing in Champions League versus Dortmund, Gio's former team. So it's one of those things where Gio, we know how good he can be, and for those brief moments with the US team in that 10 role, he's looked really sharp. But at the moment, you got to go with form and fitness, and I think Tillman checks both of those boxes at the moment. So yeah, it has to be a strong consideration. But again, you're looking at Nations League. You got to see how that plays out. How does the US respond against a hungry Jamaica, considering Tillman's comments post match of hearing about this Jamaican side and that they have a few good players.
Okay. No. Yeah, we're gonna get to that clip. So nice tease there, Chuck. Now, Jesse, I'm gonna package this question to you in the same way, but I'm gonna add a few names, because there's something that I really appreciate, and we didn't mention it with Yunus Musah, but he's getting trusted by Stefano Pioli in high pressure situations, and that's important. That's an important thing because as you know, as a coach, that when you feel like you know what you're going to get out of that player, that if they just give you 7 or 8 out of 10 in that performance, and that's what you expect, because that's why you're putting them in the lineup, there's something about that quality. It's and that consistency that you know you're going to get from that particular player. So I think about Yunus Musah there, but we're also seeing it with Johnny Cardoso with Real Betis, right? He makes his move from Internacional, from the Brasileirão, and he's been inserted into the lineup. And there feels like there's some real trust from his manager, Manuel Pellegrini, which we're also seeing with Malik Tillman and Peter Bosch at PSV. And so when you see how Cardoso is playing as well, now putting that into the context and the framework of the national team, do you think Cardoso's done enough to warrant that type of trust from Greg Berhalter? Very similar to what I asked with Charlie with Tillman.
Yeah, in general, I would say no one gets a free pass, right? Like, you got to be playing, you got to be performing well, you've got to earn your right to come to the national team and be in the squad, and then who's going to be in the lineup? And obviously, there's form versus performances in the past, and then you have to always be thinking about how to get the balance of what's happening within the team and in the entire group. But Tillman has to be considered from the start. He's been playing fantastic, and Cardoso as well. And for Cardoso, certainly a door is open a bit because of what's happened with Tyler Adams. Obviously, if any of the top-notch players that we all know are a big part of the national team are playing consistently and performing well with their teams in Europe, then obviously they're typically going to get the nod from the coach.
Yes, but like Weston's a lock.
Yeah. But Weston's also performing, right? He's playing every week. He's playing at a high level. Like, what are they going to do with Tim Weah? Right? Obviously an important guy in the team, but hasn't played quite as much. And when he has, he's played more of a wing back. I think he knows his role, but these are the kinds of decisions and discussions that will be had within the national team staff and trying to figure out what the balance is. For me, Cardoso, if you just talk about his performance as well yesterday, I think even when I talked about the coach's corner, the two things I talked about were not being so passive with the ball and not being so passive against the ball. And for me in this match, he was much more present and then pushed himself in the match to have a big impact on now trying to take over the game in the middle of the pitch. So, we have, what's nice to see is just that we have some options, right? That we have some good players playing with good clubs, playing in European matches and performing at a high level. And obviously this is the kind of problem when you're the coach of the national team that you want to have.
I just want to give a shout out to Real Betis's coaching staff and to Johnny Cardoso for clearly taking the time to watch our coach's corner last time. Jesse was breaking down the game. Very, very cool of them. And to see that implemented in the next game against Dinamo Zagreb, even though they got knocked out, is still very, very thoughtful for them, and best of luck to them over the course of the season. All right, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, there's some updates between this heated relationship between U.S. Soccer and MLS over the U.S. Open Cup, and USL's thrown in there too. It's getting a little spicy, so we're going to break it down right after this. Welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy alongside Jesse and Chuck, and we are talking a little U.S. Open Cup. As I mentioned before the break, things are getting a little bit spicy. Let's catch everybody up. Back on February 18th, that's 5 or 6 days ago, Michael Batista from Hudson River Blue came out and said that there's still some issues going on. It's getting a little contentious between U.S. Soccer and the organizers of U.S. Open Cup or whatever committee's there, and MLS, and now USL, the president of USL, Paul McDonough, has come out and is frustrated and is representing all of his clubs. And it's just a little bit of a mess. And right now it's being reported, this is still speculation, that only 8 or 9 MLS clubs will be competing in the U.S. Open Cup in 2024. But we're also hearing that because there's so much going on behind the scenes, they might just cancel the tournament altogether. Now, this feels a little different. And Chuck, I'm going to come to you on what was being said when that announcement first got put out by MLS that they were out, where U.S. Soccer's like, absolutely, your teams have to participate. And for those that don't know, they are granted this Division I status from U.S. Soccer, MLS is, but part of that is by playing in your domestic cup competition like it happens everywhere else around the world. So for MLS to be like, nah, we're not interested, obviously caused a lot of emotion and interest about that's not cool. And I can't believe that they're strong-arming it, but I also can see it because the almighty dollar dictates a lot of decisions. But Chuck, what are your thoughts on this? Because I could just go on and on and on and on and on.
Jesse, Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong. Don Garber, the commissioner of Major League Soccer, is on the U.S. Soccer board.
That's correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So tell me how this makes sense.
Conflict of interest?
You have somebody on the board who can say, this is what we're doing versus you have the best of, you're supposed to have the best of both interests, right? And I just feel that MLS needs to be involved in this competition, and you find a way to make it work with the schedule. Yes, Copa America is going on. Yes, the Olympics are going on. Yes, Champions Cup is going on. Yes, you have all Leagues Cup. You figure out a way to make it work, because the U.S. Open Cup is not the same if MLS isn't in it. And for all the young teams that are in U.S. Open Cup, or the teams that are further down the division, the line, their dream is to play against MLS teams, to have that opportunity to play against the best. That maybe it's their shot to get a new contract. So, I mean, it would make absolutely no sense if half the teams are in and half are out, or half the teams are in and then the other half are sending their second team. So I'm just conflicted with the whole thing.
I want to give some interesting quotes from Paul McDonough, the USL president, because he has some good ones. And Jesse, your thoughts on this? He said that when U.S. Soccer initially denied MLS's request to enter reserve teams, McDonough, quote, "We thought this was put to bed in December." And then he and USL clubs were caught off guard when a U.S. soccer official called in late January to say that there'd be changes to the format in Open Cup, and that, quote, "we're probably not looking at full MLS participation." Now, U.S. Soccer and MLS apparently have continued to engage in dialogue, but it's really frustrating, to the point where USL said they might just not have their teams involved at all. They have since now come out and stated that they are going to compete in it. They understand the value of it, and it's important to their fans and to the culture and the fabric of the game here. But
2 wrongs don't make it right.
Yeah. I guess what I want to add this with McDonough. He did say, and I appreciate that he said this, if MLS wanted exemptions for the 9 teams who are going to play in the Concacaf Champions Cup, he would have endorsed that and, in fact, blessed it. Everybody else, though, should and could have played. And so I appreciate that there's still some wiggle room. Okay, yeah, you have some schedule congestion, and especially for the Champions Cup participants, it just becomes so overwhelming. But what's fascinating is that a lot of this congestion, we've talked about it before, is actually from MLS themselves by the implementation of Leagues Cup. And so they're doing this to themselves, which is what I don't know. It's just, if MLS is going to MLS is kind of how.
Yeah. I feel like Paul McDonough a little bit. Like, didn't we talk about this already on this podcast?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what else can we say? I think we really, I think, expressed the fact that we value, us three, right, from our experiences, really valued this tournament, and it's the oldest tournament in the country. And I don't know what the solution is. I'm not tasked with that, but there's plenty of smart people that are sorting through this. And I think the fan reaction has been strong enough for everybody to understand, let's figure this out. Let's make a decision. Let's find a way to put as many teams as possible. I don't know exactly what the dialogue is and what the situation is, but let's show everyone our first league, our first division. Let's really show how important we value this tournament. And of course, we all know that there's probably more money in some of the other tournaments, but it shouldn't dictate what we do with our sport in our country.
Okay, so based on this article and the sources that Henry Bushnell from Yahoo Sports is finding, he's got a great article on it. He said that the most likely outcome that these sources indicated is that MLS clubs would fall into 3 categories. All right, you ready for this, Chuck? First one, 8 of the 9 CONCACAF Champions Cup qualifiers won't participate in the Open Cup, which I just mentioned. The one exception would be the Houston Dynamo, who won last year's version, so they'd get a chance to defend their title. 2, a handful of MLS teams selected based on where they finished in the regular season would participate in the Open Cup. Okay, so MLS is like, you can have our losers. And 3, other MLS clubs will send their reserve teams. So those are the 3 likely outcomes based on these sources. What are your thoughts on somehow finding middle ground here to try to appease everyone? I don't know if it's going to work.
It's
like, you're either all in or you're out. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you think?
Not at all. It's dysfunctional is what it sounds like. And then you have MLS clubs who are participating in the U.S. Open Cup who don't invest in their squads the way that other teams do. going for the US Open Cup to win it, to say, hey, we got our trophy, right? And that should mean that we're successful because you won a trophy and 2/3 of the other teams didn't take it seriously. So in MLS, like you said, Jimmy, you're all in or you're all out. And us three, and I think the majority want MLS to be all in, right? To compete for the US Open Cup, to make this the special tournament it deserves to be.
I think what's interesting, we discussed this, Jesse, just to give a little bit more context for everybody at home, in case they missed the pod where we did talk about it ad nauseum, is the prize money to win a U.S. Open Cup is $300,000, and that hasn't moved much, right? You don't. There's not a lot of money. There's not a big pot of gold at the end of winning the Open Cup, outside of the prestige that comes with it, which we all value, right? It's the oldest competition in the country. It matters. Now, when you look at Leagues Cup, it jumps up to $2 million to win that competition. So they're obviously dangling a bigger carrot for MLS teams.
Million? If you made it $1 million, do you think that would make the?
I don't know. I mean, I think that some money would help. I think clubs take it a little bit more serious because now they know there's a pot of gold at the end that could help them in other ways or to be more competitive in multiple competitions. What I find interesting as well is that I think there's some. And again, this is speculation, but I feel like, from what I understand, MLS was the one that was supposed to have the budget to market the Open Cup, and now it seems like they're saying, well, U.S. Soccer, you didn't market the tournament, but they gave that responsibility to MLS, and MLS didn't market it. So there just feels like there's a little bit of weird stuff going on, and we could get into some Soccer United marketing where U.S. Soccer and MLS joined forces to create better TV contracts, and that felt like a necessary move to make sure the stability of the league happened. But that broke up. Some doesn't exist anymore, and so I don't know if there's any. I don't know. I'm getting into speculation mode here, but I just feel like there's some machinations happening behind the scenes that maybe we aren't all privy to. That's influencing the decisions by the big power brokers and all of this, Jesse.
Yeah, listen. Again, I said it before. The money for me shouldn't dictate the tournament. Right. The making it $1 million instead of 300,000 for me doesn't do anything to put more value to the tournament.
I think for the players it does.
Maybe, but even, I mean, once you divide it all up, of course you make more money, but once you divide, it used to be 100,000 and we were ecstatic about that.
I remember.
And we split it up 20 ways. It was $5,000 each. I mean, it's crazy. But I look at England. So let's just talk Man City. Okay. Man City this year had to play in the World Club Championship, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, obviously the league, the Champions League, and also in the FA Cup, there's still the chance that if you draw a match that you have to play a second leg, a whole nother match again. And there's no really flexibility in terms of what teams do there and how many matches they have. So, I mean, listen, this is the game at the club game at the highest level when you talk of the Premier League, but I don't see how they can't find enough midweeks where there's time and room to play more matches. I get the schedule congestion and everything else, but these are all, these new tournaments for me shouldn't take away from the history of what the game has meant.
Yeah, just to jump on that, I think it opens up a Pandora's box about the salary cap, right? When we use Man City, they ultimately, I know financial fair play, I'm going to put air quotes around financial fair play, but they can build a squad. They can build a squad that can compete in multiple competitions, whereas MLS has a salary cap that I do believe handcuffs a lot of these teams. And Steve Cherundolo from LAFC has talked about it, especially in the last season.
But Man City carries a small squad. Right? Obviously, they carry an expensive squad, right? It's a very good squad, but they don't carry 30 players. Like MLS teams carry more players than even Man City does. Of course, they can always draw from their academy and whatnot, but it's not like these, the demands of the game at in the highest level in Europe is, I mean, they used to draw up how many games Frank Lampard would play a year, or how many games the best play. Rodri, how many games does he play a year or whatever? This is what the game is at the highest level. And this is where players have to take care of themselves. They have to understand the demands. They have to manage everything. And obviously, okay, it's a bigger level. There's more money, but that shouldn't really dictate how players can manage how many matches they can play a year.
Yeah, this could lead into a really big conversation, but we're going to move into the next break. Listen, we got more stuff to preview, and obviously this is a fluid story, right? It's going to continue to evolve and twists and turns, and it should probably be its own Netflix series at this particular point. But we're going to take our last break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a little bulletin board material that Malik Tillman said about Jamaica ahead of our big matchup in March in the Nations League semifinal. So don't go anywhere. You want to hear this.
US men's national team, you have to remind me what's next. Is it Nations League for you guys in Texas coming up in March?
Yes, semi-final against Jamaica.
What are your thoughts about that game? What are your expectations?
To be fair, I don't know much about Jamaica. I know they have some English guys who went there recently. But yeah, we won it last season, so we try to win it again.
Do you look at it as a routine game to get through to the final?
No, not really. I think they're a good team. They have a good team. Well, that's what I heard. So yeah, we have to reach our level, play the football that we can. Yeah, it's gonna be a hard game to win.
I mean, I don't know, if I'm playing for my club team and I've just come off a match in the Champions League and I have to put my national team hat on and be asked questions about an opponent I'm not familiar with, I'm not that surprised that that's how he answered those questions. Bulletin board material, yeah, I guess if the Jamaican coaching staff wants to spin it in that way. Jesse, as our resident coach, your thoughts on this? Is this bulletin board material?
I don't know. I'm never a big fan of the need to put up too many comments of what the opponent says. Like, you shouldn't need special motivation. I think the Jamaicans always, when it comes to playing the US, they come with emotion. They come with something to prove. They come with an edge. I think some of their best performances over the in recent memory have been against the US. So obviously Tillman could probably answer that question in a better way. But I don't read too much into it. And if I'm the US team, regardless, I'm expecting a Jamaica team that's ready to come and play for everything and with a lot to prove and with a lot on the line.
Chuck, it didn't feel like arrogance in his answer. It was just more like, I don't really know. And
it was too honest is what it was. Like the media training wasn't there. He's got to talk. He's got to talk to somebody. But obviously, he didn't mean anything in it. It was. I just came off a Champions League match. Pretty happy with my performance. And all of a sudden, you get hit with, "Hey, what do you think about Jamaica?" And he's like, "I don't know. I don't know them. So." Yes, he just needs to word it better, and that comes with experience in media training. But yeah, he meant nothing malicious by those words. It was pure honesty. You could tell that he's a good kid. So now he's got to back it up in March.
Yeah, hopefully he gets selected and can put it together there on the field and get some playing time in that big game. And it's looking like I'd say the driver's seat, but as we mentioned before, he looks like he's in a good position to hopefully get some meaningful minutes, whether it's in the semifinal or whether it's in the final, whatever it may be.
Wait, before we go on then, how would you assess Gio Reyna's loan move thus far?
Not great.
You're saying it's not a B+? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. Well, I would say that there were some whispers, maybe more obvious whispers for people that are closer to it, that this was a bit manufactured because his new agent has connections to the manager of Nottingham Forest and to the club itself in some capacity.
A bit?
Okay, fine. And so, yes, a lot. And now the proof's in the pudding. You're going to play the guy. And he played him a little bit, and then he looked fine when he was out there. But the other players were
There's time. There's time.
There's time. Of course,
there's time.
But if we're trying to build this into how it impacts our team in March, right now it'd be hard to go with Gio Reyna. And I wonder, very quickly before we let everybody go, because I know we're in our final break, and Jesse, I want your thoughts on this. What kind of precedent do you set as a national team coach if you do start a Gio Reyna in that Nations League semifinal, knowing he hasn't played a lot, whereas there's clearly guys that are playing well that in theory have earned the opportunity to play ahead of him, or at least to get those minutes?
Listen, the precedent is less important than making sure whatever team you put on the pitch is ready to perform, right? And so, but this is where form and fitness play a factor. So yeah, there'll be some tough decisions to make. Like always, this is part of being a coach. You have to make tough decisions, and you try to get more of them right than you do wrong. That's for sure. But you know, the timing right now is Nottingham Forest for me probably had their best match of the year, and their front four probably performed the best that they have all year, and Gio doesn't play, so it makes it a little bit difficult. But Nottingham Forest, it's going to get tight, you know, and they're going to need all their attacking players to be ready to go. And next time Gio gets the chance to be on the pitch, he's going to have to keep performing and training every day, and when he gets chances on match day. So this is normal. Of course, we would have all wished that he's playing more minutes right now, apparently, especially Charlie. But nonetheless, like this is what it is. He
needs to be playing. He needs to be playing.
He's got to compete. He's got to earn his way. Nothing comes for free.
So Chuck, give us your final thought to end the show. Your thoughts on Gio Reyna. You asked the question. Now we want you to answer it.
Yes. Again, it's early, like you said, but I think we've got a good snapshot of what he's up against, and kind of like the way that Nottingham Forest play under Nuno Espirito Santo. So I was never thrilled with this move. I always thought he needed to take one step back to take two steps forward. And the Premier League is a step forward. And I know it's not Dortmund, Nottingham Forest, but the league and the ask and the demands are much greater than what it is at Dortmund, and the players that he's around, the players he's competing with in that position, not having that much time to impress. So it's a really difficult situation for Gio Reyna. Yes, you can learn a lot from being in that situation, but to assess it thus far, it's not a great move.
It's not a great move. That's how we're going to end the show, because it's always a great move to listen to Call It What You Want.
Woo!
Thank you so much for your support. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the other side of it. Later.